can talk positive about Sadaka all and every day. I do. But unless we get the people from the outside who currently don't use the place to come inside and not only come in and expect this place to look like, I don't know, look like Aladdin's cave. You know, people have got to come in and create the change that they want it to be.
Okay, first question. How does Sadaka and Spital Hill care for you?
Well, for me personally, it offered me a job opportunity where, you know, I was kind of not sure what I wanted to do. Didn't really have a lot of skills. And Sadaka offered me a job role where I could learn as much as I could, help people and, you know, gain confidence. So for that, I say that's how it's helped me.
I wouldn't say that these places are caring for anybody because there's a lot of businesses here, but I don't see them putting anything back into the community. You know, if you notice after the school hours, there's a lot of young people that are standing around outside the chip shops and outside the shops, and none of these places are saying to them, well, come in and volunteer for us, or, you know, come in and work for us and we'll pay you something. It just seems to be they're there to make money. Whereas Sadaka is slightly different to that. Sadaka is trying to engage the young people and bring them in. They're moving my organisation, which works with black people with mental health issues, into the building. So they're definitely looking out for the community.
I remember coming into this building when I was about 8 or 10, and, you know, a group of entrepreneurial community leaders, faith leaders, people of that generation. My dad's, you know, in his 80s now, but people of that generation had a very different outlook on life. They came to this city to work. A lot of them came as migrant workers. Quite a lot of them were part of the Windrush generation. Some were before the Windrush and some came after. And alongside that, it was about building community spaces for their families, for their own communities. So each of those kind of individual communities created their own community spaces, and predominantly those community spaces so that they could have a culturally appropriate space that was their own. Because in the early days in the city, there was no facilities for those communities, there was no spaces, and you used to have groups of men, you know, living in, you know, terraced houses, and they were all just taking it in shifts. And you'd have people here, you'd have some of the older families that were more established who would support new arrivals. So you know, very close-knit, quite very tight-knit communities, because they had to be. They couldn't rely on anybody.
But what draws me to here is that this place should be and will be the place in this, not just in Sheffield, but in this whole region of South Yorkshire and North Derbyshire. We should be the place where we provide not only services for the African and Caribbean communities, but also where we can come and see African and Caribbean resources.
What Adira does is we have a support group for black women only that meets once a month, that is incredibly popular because it's a place where you come and there is no judgment. You offload. We're setting up a listening service next year, early next year, where people will be able to come, talk and leave. Yeah, come, offload and leave. Because sometimes people, they might be alcoholics or drug addicts or on some kind of substance. And yeah, they know they've got a problem, but I'm not ready to deal with that problem. I just need to talk. I don't need you to fix me. I don't need you to signpost me. I just want to talk. And when I've talked, I'm going to go. Right? Because what you'll find is once people have finished talking over a period of weeks or days or months, after that, because they've emptied the emotional bucket and the mental bucket, they're ready to look at their lives and think, you know what, maybe I do need to do something about my job problem. Maybe it is affecting my children more than I thought. But they needed that space, that time. So we're providing that.
had a guy who phoned, and my manager picked up the call, and he said, you know, I'm sick of life. You know, I'm gonna end my life. And you know, he said he had nobody who cared for him, nobody to look out for him. And my manager basically convinced him, you know, come down to Sadaka, you know, come meet us, talk to us, tell us how you feel, and you know, forget about any, you know, any in your life. So he came down and talked to, and he comes around like every week or so, just to talk.
Yeah.
How he's feeling,
That's what Sadaka's here for, man.